All right, brothers, let me walk you through something that blew up all over the internet. A clip of a woman crying into her phone went viral. Millions of views because she was talking about something a lot of modern women are quietly struggling with. She can't feel a spark with men anymore. And not because the guys are weird, creepy, or low value. No, because they're actually attractive, normal, put-together men, and she still feels nothing. So, let's break down her video, and then I'll tell you exactly what's really going on underneath the surface. She starts by saying she promised herself she wouldn't talk about her dating life. But she feels too alone to stay quiet. She had just gone on a first date, a perfectly fine date with a perfectly decent man. No red flags, no awkward moments, nothing bad happened, and strangely, that's the problem. She says she felt absolutely nothing. No chemistry, no excitement, no pull toward him. Just flat, empty, depleted. Like she's walking into these dates as a shell of who she used to be. Then she says something revealing. She keeps going out with attractive, interesting, accomplished men, and still feels zero. Not less than usual, not something's missing. No, nothing. And then she turns on herself. She says she feels like just another girl in the lineup of a million. She feels like she's not special. She feels like she's not showing up as sparkly or magnetic or fun because she's so drained that even presenting herself feels like effort. And that right there is the first real clue. She doesn't feel alive anymore. Her dating life feels like a job interview she's forced to attend. Then she talks about how she knows her person is out there, but she's losing faith that she even has the energy to find them. She references hearing a story of someone who kept dating through all kinds of hardship and says she admires that. But she doesn't have that drive left in her. And when she says, "I thought I was safe. I thought I was done." And having to do this again just feels like work. You can hear the exhaustion in her voice. This is where most people stopped and said, she's on antidepressants. Comment sections were full of guesses. SSRIs, emotional numbness, burnout. Therapists chimed in saying, "I hear this from women in this exact age group all the time." She looks like she's somewhere in her early 30s, right at the age when biology kicks in and says, it's time to settle down, find your man, build your family. And that's when they run into this wall, wanting a connection, but not being able to feel one. And that's what I want to unpack now, because this isn't some isolated event. This is a full-blown pattern across an entire generation of women. A lot of women today spend the prime decade of emotional bonding, their 20s, running through the modern lifestyle checklist. Partying, clubbing, traveling, hookups, situationships, chasing excitement, sleeping with guys who never wanted anything serious, and bouncing from thrill to thrill. And while they were doing all that, nobody told them the truth about what those choices do to their long-term emotional circuitry. By the time they hit 30, they want to get serious. They want marriage, stability, children, a future. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's biological wiring, not a flaw. But here's the twist. When they finally sit across from a stable, dependable, emotionally healthy man, they can't feel anything. Not because he's lacking, but because they've spent years rewiring their brains away from exactly the kind of connection they now claim to want. And this woman, in the video, she's experiencing that emotional short circuit in real time. But let's pause here, because the real explanation gets even deeper. And most people don't dare touch it. The real question is, why can't she connect anymore? What happened to her ability to feel attraction with good men? Why does stability feel boring? Why do normal men feel invisible to her nervous system? That's where we're headed next. Before we go on, if you're watching this, and you want more people to understand these dynamics clearly, drop a quick comment saying, "Spark gone." It helps the algorithm push this message further. And brothers, if you want to join a growing community of men who think for themselves, grow sharper, stronger, and more grounded every day, stick around. We're building exactly that. Picking up right where we left off, let's talk about the part most people pretend not to see. The part that explains exactly why so many modern women end up in this weird emotional dead zone by their early 30s. Because this didn't happen randomly. It didn't fall out of the sky. There's a pattern. And if you've been paying attention to the dating landscape for the last decade, you've seen it play out over and over. A lot of women spend their entire 20s chasing experiences, not relationships. And I'm not talking about harmless fun. I'm talking about the lifestyle that's normalized today. The constant partying, the hookups, the situationships, the years-long cycle of chasing the hottest guy in whatever city they happen to be traveling through. The same nightlife environments where they claim there are no good men, while ignoring the reality that good men don't usually hang out in the places where bad decisions are made at 2 a.m. And they do this for almost a decade straight, without realizing their brain is being shaped by these choices. See, emotional bonding isn't some magical force that just turns on when you want a relationship. It's built chemically, psychologically, biologically through consistency, novelty reduction, and emotional safety. But when you repeatedly bond and detach with guy after guy after guy, you train your brain not to attach deeply at all. One therapist said this perfectly in a recent podcast. Your brain adapts to whatever you repeat. And that's exactly what's happening. By 30, these women have repeated emotional detachment dozens of times. And then suddenly, they want to flip the switch and take love seriously. But their brain doesn't work like that anymore. It's numb, conditioned, exhausted. And here's where it gets more complicated. A lot of modern women have slept with far more men than they publicly admit. It's not uncommon for women today to have dozens, sometimes even triple-digit body counts by the end of their 20s. And every one of those experiences imprints something on them. Sometimes excitement, sometimes heartbreak, sometimes validation, but almost always emotional overstimulation. I once had a woman tell me the exact same thing years ago. Beautiful girl, early 30s. She told me I was attractive, successful, tall, checked all her boxes, but she just didn't feel anything. At that time, I didn't really understand why. Today, I do. She had cycled through so many men, so many flings, so many broken connections, that by the time she met someone healthy, her emotional radar was fried. She couldn't pair bond anymore. Not deeply, not the way relationships actually require. And then you add SSRIs into the mix. This part is uncomfortable, but it matters. Antidepressants are skyrocketing among women in their 30s, 2 in 5. That's nearly half. And if you talk to any psychiatrist, they'll tell you the same thing. SSRIs blunt emotional highs, emotional lows, and most importantly, emotional bonding. They flatten the nervous system. They make everything feel fine, but nothing feel meaningful. So now imagine this combination. Years of detachment, a long highlight reel of temporary men, normal men feeling boring compared to the chaos, emotional burnout, antidepressants, no stable models of healthy bonding. Put all that together and suddenly her story isn't confusing at all. It's predictable. Compare that to previous generations. Back then, people formed relationships first and slept together later. Today, people sleep together first and try to form a relationship on top of whatever's left. And the result? A whole generation that can have sex easily but can't bond deeply. a generation that confuses attention with connection, a generation that wants stability but is addicted to chaos. And this is where the real truth starts to emerge. Women who've cycled through too many men often struggle to attach to good men. Not because the good men aren't enough, but because her internal system has been desensitized to exactly what a stable, emotionally safe man provides. But this only scratches the surface. The deeper layer, the part nobody wants to talk about, is the alpha widow effect, and why women who tasted a certain type of man early in life struggle to feel anything for men below that level. That's what comes next. Let's go deeper into the real engine behind all this. The part that quietly shapes female attraction, but almost nobody talks about honestly. Because once you understand this, everything about the viral clip makes sense. The lack of spark, the emotional numbness, the confusion, the disappointment, all of it. When you look at older generations, your grandparents, great-grandparents, pair bonding was simple. They were two young, inexperienced people who wanted each other, wanted a life together, and usually had very few romantic or sexual experiences beforehand. Their first serious love was the one they married, and that imprint stayed because it had nothing to compete with. But today, it's flipped upside down. The modern dating script is sleep with multiple people, explore, try everything, avoid commitment, chase the top 1% men, rinse, repeat, and then by 30 suddenly switch gears and look for stability. Except there's a problem, and it's a massive one. Women don't bond the same way after they've cycled through too many emotionally charged experiences, especially with men they were extremely attracted to. There's a pattern that psychologists have been whispering about for years, and men's communities have finally started naming it the alpha widow effect. Here's what it means in simple terms. A woman who in her younger years got emotionally attached to a man at the peak of her hypergamous desire, a man she desperately wanted but couldn't keep, gets imprinted by that experience. That man becomes her emotional ceiling. The bar is set, and every man that comes after him is subconsciously compared to that high watermark. Comedians joke about this without even realizing how accurate it is. They'll say, women never go backward. From a guy with a bus pass, to a guy with access to his parents' car, to a guy with his own car, to a guy with an exotic car, to a guy with the exotic car and the boat. The latter only goes one direction. That's hypergamy. Women want the best man they can get, according to whatever standards exist in their world. And the moment a woman dates someone wildly above her baseline, even briefly, she becomes calibrated to that level. So when a normal, grounded, emotionally stable man shows up, she can acknowledge he's good. She can say he's handsome or accomplished, but she feels nothing. Why? Because he doesn't match the emotional intensity her brain learned to associate with desire. She's been imprinted, and she's not going back. And here's the brutal truth. You cannot compete with a ghost. You cannot compete with the highlight reel of her 20s. You cannot compete with the fantasy version of the guy who didn't choose her. This is why so many men look at these women and say, but she's objectively attractive. She's clearly interested in settling down. Why doesn't she connect with me? Why is she distant? Why does she seem bored? It's because she was never taught to protect her bonding ability. Society told her the opposite. Live your life, travel, experiment, explore. Girl boss, your 20's away. 40 is the new 20. Don't worry about it. And the result? A generation of women who traded long-term bonding capacity for short-term validation and are now hitting a biological wall they weren't prepared for. Let me give you a real example. Years ago, I met a woman who fit this mold perfectly. Early 30s, attractive, traveled everywhere, worked on cruise ships, had photos in Santorini, Dubai, Bali, yachts, rooftop bars, the exact Instagram aesthetic. Beautiful plates of food, luxury backdrops, solo shots, where she looked like her life was a movie. And if you asked, who's paying for all this? You already know the answer. She wasn't building a future. She was surfing attention. And when the time came for her to settle down with a good man, she couldn't. Her emotional system had been stretched, fried, overstimulated, and then flattened. She was the woman in the viral clip years before TikTok existed. Exhausted, confused, unable to bond, wondering why everything felt like work. And here's the closing question, one every woman in this situation hates but needs to hear. How's that working out for you? Because the truth is, it's not. It never does. It can't. A cycle built on novelty and validation doesn't magically transform into lifelong connection. But this is where men ask the next logical question. Okay, man, I get it. But what do I do about it? How do I avoid women like this and find someone who actually can connect? That's what we will discuss next. The part that's actually about you. So now we get to the part every man watching wants the answer to. What do you actually do with all of this information? Because it's one thing to understand why the modern dating market looks the way it does, why so many women are emotionally burned out, and why they can't connect. But the real question, the only one that matters, is this. How do you as a man win despite it? Let me give it to you straight. There is no amount of empathy, patience, reassurance, or being a good guy that can fix a woman who burned through her youth, her bonding ability, and her emotional bandwidth. You cannot reverse her past experiences. You cannot undo the imprint of men she chased but couldn't keep. You cannot compete with the fantasy of a lifestyle that overstimulated her into numbness. So what's the solution? You build yourself into a man with options. That's the entire game. Not to impress women, not to be worthy, not to fix the dating market, but to build a life so strong, so grounded, so structured around your own goals, that you get to choose the kind of woman who enters your world. Because the truth is, and you already know this deep down, the advantage in dating shifts very quickly once a man starts leveling up. Not by talking about it, not by complaining, but by actually doing the work. And here on this channel, that's what we push every man toward. Real improvement, tangible results, a mindset that rises above excuses and noise. Here we break things down into what every high-value man actually needs to build. Your money right, your body right, your mind right, your boundaries solid, your mission clear, your social circle strong, and your lifestyle calibrated to your standards. These aren't abstract concepts. They're pillars you build day by day until your life becomes something you're proud of. And when you put all these pieces together, you naturally end up where only a small percentage of men ever reach, the position of optionality. That top-shelf position where you're respected, in control, and in demand. Not because of luck, not because of genetics, but because you built yourself into a man who carries value. And let me make this crystal clear for anyone who still doesn't get it. You're not doing this for women. You're doing this so your life is stable, sharp, intentional, and so you're never forced to settle for chaos ever again. Men with optionality don't waste time trying to fix women who can't connect. They don't beg for attention. They don't chase validation. And they don't fight for crumbs. They move toward women who are younger, healthier, emotionally open, and capable of forming real bonds. Women who haven't burned themselves out chasing thrills for a decade straight. And yes, it's work. Real work. But inside this community, the men watching this channel, commenting, learning, improving, pushing each other forward, you're not doing it alone. You're part of a growing tribe committed to leveling up, thinking clearly, and refusing to live life on autopilot. A group of men holding themselves to a higher standard every single day. That's how you win in the modern world. Become the man who gets to choose, not the man hoping to be chosen. Once you start leveling up in every area, everything changes. Your dating life, your confidence, your standards, your peace of mind. You stop tolerating nonsense, you stop wasting time, and you start choosing women who can actually connect with you. Before we wrap this up, drop a quick comment saying "top shelf." It's a small reminder of what you're really building toward. If this breakdown changed the way you view the modern dating landscape and the importance of protecting your own value, make sure to subscribe and like the video. We are uncovering the truths that society tries to keep hidden. Build your foundation. Secure your future. The next chapter of your growth starts now. See you in the next video.